Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where we proudly provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. And we are super excited because we are celebrating our 4th anniversary. We have been streaming and in business since January of 2022. So thank you to everyone who has been with us since the very beginning. And please do join us on Sunday for our reunion show. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show today is A Woman's Prerogative. And hello to all of our friends at E360 TV. Today we're going to be talking about energy. Drain, gain, where do you stand? What are you doing with your energy? Are you protecting it? Or are you letting it go? My co-host and the star of our show is joining us from Australia, formerly New Zealand. Her name is MARISKA, and she is all things when it comes to coaches. She has many certifications, and she helps individuals. She also helps teams. I call her the wizard of coaching. Let's welcome her to the program and talk about energy, gain, and drain. Welcome to the show. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello, and thank you for having me. And yes, I know that my movements along the planet does create some confusion sometimes.
I really was so close to saying it again, and I didn't. So Mariska was in New Zealand, and now she's in Australia. So I get confused sometimes, but she's here regardless. So tell our wonderful, beautiful audience what it is that you do to help people.
So I partner with leaders when they want to bring a little bit more humanness into their work environment. So this might look like having those tough conversations and actually stepping away from them, feeling that you both got what you needed. And it was even though it's a tough conversation, a good conversation. So those sort of things, not always easy for us to do, and we don't always know how to approach them. So that is some of what I help the leaders that I work with. And this is both for leaders entering into leadership. So if you are new to leadership, stepping from a specialization into leadership, as well as leaders stepping up in their leadership space. So both those areas where I help out. And then sometimes we also have those areas where we think, I'm not too sure whether I want to go into this direction or that direction, or what I want to do with my career and where I am in life at the moment. So that's things that we also work through. Then, of course, on the team side, well, we all need to work together to accomplish some task or goal or whatever it is that we have set for ourselves. And I am sure, as you will know, all teams does not always work in perfect harmony all the time. There's going to be areas of conflict. There's going to be areas and times when we don't agree with each other. And that's good. That's what we need. And we also need to be able to have those conversations in a generative, constructive way. So doing that and helping each other to do that better, that is another place that I help out. So that is all about where I work and how I work. And of course, Dr. Jacalyn, I am looking forward to jumping into our topic.
I am too. I love the topic of energy, and thank you for coming up with this one because I've been completely changing a lot of things in my life, and it's not some kind of New Year's resolution. As I've mentioned many times, I have ulcerative colitis and it's in remission, and it's usually around now where it starts getting it's coming back going, hello, did you forget me? So I've decided to change some things about my diet and my routine, and I've had a lot of energy until this afternoon at like 3 o'clock. And I thought, oh my gosh, what is going on? So I do everything that I can to protect my energy. I wasn't like that probably a year ago, but now I feel like energy is so important in how we channel it, who we give it to, what we allow to come into our life that drains our energy. We have to have up a big fence that says no admittance. What are your thoughts?
I absolutely agree. There's so many different ways for us to gain energy and also to be drained. And as you mentioned, that big fence, we need to know, well, one, where is the fence, right? Where are we putting up the fence? Do we need a fence in this place or not? So understanding what it is for us is very, very helpful. And I am myself also going through a bit of a energy revamp, so to speak, to see any areas where I'm having some energy drains that's actually taking away my energy, so I can stop doing that and be more conscious about protecting it, as you mentioned. And then, of course, all those ways that I can increase it. How can I help it be more healthy and thriving and invigorating so that I can utilize it in a way that I actually want to use it instead of just wasting it?
Well, it sounds to me, Mariska, like there's several areas that we can jump into. The first one is how we can protect our own energy with what we're doing, the decisions that we make. That's the first one. And then the second one is how can we protect our energy from others, whether it's people, situations, opportunities. Sometimes people just say yes to every opportunity that comes on board. It's like there's not enough time in the day. And then the third one is how can we generate more energy? So where would you like to start?
Well, that is a good question. Well, maybe let's go for the looking at ourselves first and then work our way out.
That's what I was going to say also. So what comes up for me about that is we get 24 hours in the day, and it starts, as soon as we wake up, we get to make decisions. And deciding on how we're going to spend our time and what we spend our time doing. I know one thing that comes up, and I'm just going to be honest, it doesn't really apply to me. I just have to say, because I've worked on it, is procrastination. I typically, when there's something I don't want to do, that is the first thing I will do just to get it out of the way. But many times people procrastinate because they don't actually want to do something. And I always find, and I'd love you to weigh in on this, that when we do the hard things, we really grow.
That is true. And unlike you, I do have a tendency to procrastinate from time to time. Okay. What I have found, though, is for me, there's typically an emotional something going on that I need to go and look at first. So it might be that it is not in alignment with my purpose. It might be that emotionally there is some stickiness or some yuckness to the thing that I haven't worked out yet, and that's why I'm procrastinating on it. So once I've worked out what it is and how I need to solve that problem, it becomes a lot easier then to do the difficult thing. Because a lot of times, honestly, it's not really difficult. So it might be, to give you an example, let's say taxes, right? It's not my favorite thing to do. Now, when it comes to taxes, it's not that it's difficult. I mean, it's a couple of places that you need to put a couple of figures and a few calculations that you need to do. That's it, right? I'm an engineer. I understand figures. I understand how to do calculations. None of this is difficult. And yet, that's one of the things that I really would procrastinate on. And mostly because of the energetic emotional energy that is attached to it, more so than the thing that I need to do. So I have discovered for myself that once I do get to this procrastination piece, it's sort of a flag to say, hey, there's something there, in all likelihood emotionally tied to the thing that you want to try to do, that you need to resolve in order to do the thing. And then once I have resolved it, makes it so much easier to do. So yes, for me, just pushing through it doesn't always work. Sometimes it does, but not always. If I try to push through it and it still doesn't want to work, I know it's something else below the surface.
You've brought up a good topic, which is taxes, because here in the States, we have the IRS deadline, which is April 15th, I believe, unless it's been changed. But if you know you're going to owe money, you may put it off because you feel like, why should I get to it right now? But I imagine if you're going to be getting money, you'd want to get the taxes filed as quickly as possible to get that money in your pocket. But so you brought up a great point, which is sometimes there's actually something else that's standing in the way. And what I found is, and I've shared this before, we can come from a place of love or a place of fear. And when we come from a place of fear, that kind of permeates every single thing that we're doing. And if we go and sort of delve deeper underneath the fear, we will actually start to get somewhere. Like, what is the thing that you are most afraid of? Is it failure? Is it isolation? We could give all kinds of examples. So I feel by identifying what it is that's really coming up for me, I will give myself 10 minutes. Now, about a couple months ago, I gave myself an hour, 10 minutes to go, boo-hoo, woe is me. I'm so angry. What am I going to do? And then I say to myself, what is the solution? What do I have to do to get to the solution? And once I start working on that, I'm no longer thinking, oh, I feel sorry for myself. I feel trapped. I can't make a decision. What do you think about that?
That is a tactic that I typically also utilize, because I don't always see the point in, renumerating or going over and over and over and over on the same thing. It's really not solving the problem. It's just me being in my head spinning around. So one of the things that I also do that I find quite helpful is there is a accelerator technique that I've learned, where you basically go through what the thing is that might be the problem or that I want to be solving, and then look at where I have solved not necessarily this problem, but something similar in the past. What strengths do I have? And then come up with a whole bunch of different ways in which I can possibly solve it. So once I've done that, I can look at, okay, so with all of these possible ways of solving it, what might be my either smallest step, which is the things that I want to try out, what would be my smallest step to get this done, or the most audacious? Because sometimes, as you mentioned, Dr. Jacalyn, the fear is really around the, I might succeed with this, right? It might not be the failure. It might be the success. That is the fear. And I can decide whether I want to make a small step or a big step. But I need to make that decision right there as I'm doing that, and give myself 2 minutes to take the step that I decided on. And that helps me to just get me over most of that stuck inertia so that I can continue. And it makes it a lot easier. Plus, now I'm out of my head. I'm not wondering about, oh, poor me, and I can continue with what I need to do. And I don't know about you, Dr. Jacalyn, but normally once I've taken that first step, it's so much easier to just continue.
It's so true. It really is true. And something I've shared before, which I hope will be helpful to other people, is I fell off the treadmill when I was running. And this was in August. And I was in a class and I was singing at the top of my lungs and I was running and I was having a great time, and I fell off the treadmill. And as I was lying there with people helping me take off my gloves, I was wearing weight training gloves and my shoes and the whole thing. And I just thought, wow, I can't believe this machine has beat me. And it ended up I have to go to urgent care, et cetera. But I went back to the gym 2 days later And I looked at it and I said, no, you don't have anything over me. I'm not giving it into you, you inanimate thing. So sometimes by addressing what the fear is, confronting the fear, and then going back at it. So I went back on the treadmill and I've been on it ever since. And I used to think about falling up until recently. I forgot I was not even thinking about it. I was thinking about it every time I got on there. And sometimes we do that. The past comes up to us over and over and over again. And that, of course, is fear. And is it a rational fear or is it irrational? So is it possible that I could trip and fall again? Of course it is. But do I think I will? I hope not, because I'm picking up my feet more and I slowed down a little bit. I thought at 62, I don't need to be going like I'm a 20-year-old. So I just bring it up because there are things that can happen to us that can scare us, but how we deal with it says a lot about what's going to happen in the future. So just because of timing, I think it would be fun to move on to the second category, which is about other people and circumstances and how we give our power to other people. And if you can think of an example, and I'll think of an example, but as I mentioned, we all have the same number of hours in a day. And although you're ahead of me and you're a day ahead there in Australia, it's still the same 24 hours in a day. And so I know that sometimes people will be people pleasers and there's no judgment about it. And they spend a lot of time being there for someone else, comforting someone else, giving someone else center stage. And at the meantime, what they need and what they want is kind of on the back burner. What are your thoughts about that? Have you experienced that yourself?
Well, personally, I'm not a people pleaser. In general, I might have situations where it comes up, but it's not something that's a feature for me. What I have found, though, is boundary setting in general can be very, very difficult. And even when I work with my clients, a lot of leaders, for some, it's really easy to set boundaries, and for other people, it's really difficult to set boundaries. Or we might be able to set boundaries in certain circumstances. My tongue. But in other circumstances, we might not. It might feel more difficult to do. So that boundary setting element of things and how we think about the boundaries that we set, are they very rigid? That might potentially be helpful in some situation, and other situations not so much. Are they very flexible? Again, some situations great, other situations not so much. Or are they in the Goldilocks zone where they're just right? So understanding how we set boundaries, what is our non-negotiables, how they work, I have found for myself, and this is something that I continuously have to learn and relearn again. And also for my clients, it is an ever-evolving process. And I think one of the things that delves into that a lot is the way we think about things. So if we are a people pleaser, the type of boundaries we set might be extremely porous. So we don't want to offend somebody. We don't want to be on their bad side. We want to have them feel that they appreciate us. And that's why we do a lot of the things that we might be doing. It's not necessarily helping us, and we end up being resentful. So even though we don't have boundaries with the other person, so the secondary space, our own boundaries and what we like and don't like gets impacted. So that is something that I have found that it can be very, very energy draining if we don't understand how to do this well. And Dr. Jacalyn, I remember that you also have quite a bit of experience on boundary setting.
Yes, I do. For those who don't know, I actually teach multiple courses on setting boundaries and asking permission. And it's kind of a concept that is new to some people, especially the asking permission. But if you think about it, again, guarding your time, and your time is your value, the value that you have for yourself and for others. If you're just consistently dropping everything that you're doing for someone else, you're never going to get done what it is that you want to accomplish. So what I suggest to people, without going through the whole course and whatnot, is that you can actually set the stage, so to speak. And so you can actually contact someone. I could email you, Mariska, I could call you, I could WhatsApp you, and I could say, I'd like to discuss something with you. It's going to take about 1 hour. Would now be a good time? And you could come back and say, I'm intrigued. However, this is not a good time. Or you don't have to say anything. You just say, you know what, this is not a good time. How about next week? And so then I could come back and say, well, I really want to talk to you now. And you would still hold your ground and say, well, I'm sorry, but I'm not available. And so you have this exchange that goes back and forth. And then the person asking for the permission basically has to acknowledge what the other person is saying and show the respect. Because if you really want to be there for someone and you want to truly listen, you can't be doing two things at one time. And I'll just share something quickly. Today we had a guest. We were backstage, the host, and I was the producer, and we asked the guest to do a couple of things. And the guest said, you know what, I can't listen to what you're saying and type this in the back. And I was like, that's right, you can't. We can't professionally, actively do two things at one time. So it is important to be able to set boundaries, but many people are uncomfortable doing so because they don't know what the reaction is going to be from the other person. And so what I always share is expect the other person to be upset. How are you going to deal with it? And, just practice that, because you're not trying to insult someone. You're not trying to demean anyone. You're just trying to say, at this moment, I cannot physically, mentally, emotionally do two things at one time.
Yeah. It's also, I think there's an element of how am I relaying that message so that the other person can hear it, right? I don't want to be mean about relaying the fact that I want permission. Or if you were to ask me, I don't want to be mean to say no, but I still, no is a complete sentence.
I love that. It's so good.
I can still say no and not feel bad about it. So understanding all of those different exchanges and interchanges. And for a lot of people, to your point, Dr. Jacalyn, they don't like it. They might have had bad experiences, as you mentioned before. Our past does have a tendency to come back and haunt us. I know you didn't fall off the treadmill when you got your no, but it might feel the same way, right? Emotionally, it leaves a bit of a scar. So we need to get back on the horse or the treadmill or the conversation so that we can have those conversations. We either ask the permission or we actually stand our ground and say, well, this is what I need at this moment. And this is when I will be able to actually accommodate the request. Because that's all it is. It's a request for a specific type of action. And we can always decide whether that is something we can do right now or not.
Absolutely. And I think what ties in nicely with what you're sharing is the fact that we cannot control other people's behavior. And yet some people really believe that they can. And so I've actually seen this. I don't know if you have or not in your career, in your role as a coach, but sometimes people will have complete emotional meltdowns because they can't get their way. And it's kind of like, no, I need you to listen to me now. I need you to do this now. And the person's working or the person's on their way out the door or whatever the case may be. But people want attention. And of course, at the core of that is what? It's fear. And that fear can sometimes manifest itself in a very unattractive way. Without being judgmental, it's just watching someone have an emotional breakdown because they can't get what they want.
And if that does happen, right? And I'm sure that we have all been victim to exactly that sort of situation where it just became emotionally overwhelming for whatever reason. And it might not be the thing, right? So to give you an example, when we moved to Australia, I was going to the road department to get my license changed. I have been driving for years and years and years. This is not a new concept to me. I understand that there's paperwork that needs to be filled out and certain things that needs to be done. And in this new country, then I will get my license for this country. And that's all I wanted to do. But because it was so close to the move itself and everything else that went with it, I was emotionally drained and quite overwhelmed already, but I was just on the brink. So it wasn't a breakdown quite yet, but it was sort of on the brink of it. And when I got to the department, I'm so grateful for the lady that helped me out. I forgot some of my paperwork. And she just calmly said to me, it's fine. I was very, very close to tears at that stage. She calmly said to me, it is okay. We can just rebook your appointment and then you can bring your paperwork with you. And she gave me a list of all the paperwork that I needed. And we made a new appointment and I was able to do that. So it isn't necessarily the thing. So the conversation that you might be having might not be the one where the emotion is attached to. It might be attached to something else. So also realize for yourself where you are at, what's your resource capability at that moment in time, and whether you are able to have the conversation, yes or no, when this person actually asks you, or when you are asking for it. Because if you're going to have a mental breakdown or an emotional breakdown when asking to have the conversation, might not be the greatest time to have that conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And Mariska, there's business terminology of blue ocean, red ocean. Have you ever heard of this?
Blue ocean, red ocean. Sounds familiar, but please elaborate.
It's kind of interesting because in blue ocean, if you think about it, you have a big, vast blue ocean, right? And so if you can be the business that is out there in the ocean by yourself, think about what that would mean, as opposed to a red ocean that is completely crowded by competition. That's where everybody is. But it just occurred to me that this can be sort of an analogy to human behavior and what we're talking about today. And so basically, to me, it's how people relate to uncertainty, taking risks, chances, and also how people define themselves. So if you think about the big blue ocean and you are the person who believes in themselves, you're confident, you are okay with change, with getting information from other people and evaluating yourself, that person really stands out, as opposed to the masses who are all about external validation and what other people think, or getting other people's opinions, or jumping into the fire, so to speak, when you're having a conversation, it starts to heat up. And then instead of taking a step back and controlling yourself, you go right in there with the other person, nose to nose, toe to toe. And so the fire just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So that just basically came to mind for me, red ocean versus blue ocean. And I thought that's human behavior, because people who really believe in themselves, they have control. Like you and I, we've been working on ourselves for years. So it's not that we're better than anyone. It's just that we're doing the work. And when you do the work, you start to think. You have this emotional intelligence where you process things before you react. Whereas most people, and I'm generalizing, they just react and deal with it later.
Yeah. And even to your point, Dr. Jacalyn, I mean, my story that I told you wasn't that long ago. I do a lot of work on myself, and sometimes circumstances might just be so big for you at that point in time that you might not be able to cope. So understanding what is draining you energetically and how you gain energy is really, really important, because it helps us to regulate everything, right? We are able to do things in the world. We are able to have conversations. We actually react towards other people the way that we want to. I truly don't believe that people wake up in the morning going, I want to be the worst person ever. I don't think people wake up with that in mind. They might be stressed, they might have 1,000 other things on their mind, but they don't wake up to go, I want to be the worst person ever. I don't think that's the case. If that's the case for somebody, right, please let me know so that I can readjust my hypothesis. But I don't think it is. We do, however, have a lot of things that might be happening. And sometimes we show up as the villain in our own story. So understanding that we can do this in a more regulated way and show up as a good, healthy human being most of the time is helpful.
Absolutely. And Mariska, thank you for sharing that story. And I think what really stood out for me was you were going through something very traumatic for anyone. It's at the top of the list of things that are really traumatic, especially moving to a different country. And you encountered someone who was intuitive enough to actually show compassion and grace. And so I don't know if that person was trained that way or that person just innately reacted that way, which is a beautiful thing, because she basically diffused the situation. She acknowledged you. She gave you comfort. She offered you an alternative. She showed you that we can come up with a solution. And so therefore you were able to process all of that. And so I give you a lot of credit for that. And thanks for sharing that story, because if it had been someone else who you were working with, they could have handled it just very differently. Oh, get out of here. It's not my, whatever people say, especially people dealing with the public day after day after day. And I have a story that was from May. I was having some problems with my eye. And without going into it, if people know what floaters are, flashes, I think I told you. And so I had called one of the premier eye hospitals in the country, and so I left a message and they called back and they said, you need to get here right away. And it was on a Friday, and I took an Uber. I brought a bag with me. And of course I live alone. So there was, no one was going with me. And when I got there in this building, the waiting room was completely empty. There was no one there. And they asked me to fill out these forms, and I kept seeing flashing lights and floaters. And so I just started to cry. And I thought, oh, my mother's not here anymore, because she would have been there with me. And I'm here all by myself. And what if I'm losing I just literally started to cry in the waiting room. And I thought, you know what? You've got to get it together. You've got to go into different rooms where they're going to check your vision. And if you're crying, it's not going to do any good. So I said to myself, why are you crying? Because you're afraid. You're afraid of what you might find out, what the exams might show. And I thought, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. And nobody has to be here, because if somebody was here, what are they going to do? Hold your hand and go, it's going to be all right. Just tell yourself it's going to be all right. Just believe it's going to be all right. And so it was all right. But the people were very nice to me. And, I told them that my voice was a little shaky, I was a little nervous. And so they were used to that. And so they showed me kindness also. So I think that's a common theme, is showing up with grace, empathy, compassion, and kindness.
Yeah. And to your point, we never know what the other person is going through, right? For you at that stage, you wanted community. You wanted somebody to be there.
Right.
Didn't really matter who it was. And yes, to a degree, you got it for yourself, by going through that process. And you also got it from them, because they were kind. They could see you were struggling with it. And they handled you with care, which, literally it costs us nothing, right? To be kind to another human being, zero cost, zero. It doesn't take 1 penny from you. To smile to somebody doesn't take 1 penny. And yet we are so reserved with it. And I have to say, I find that for me, that also is energy gaining. If I walk up on the street and smile at a random person, right, and they smile back, like, oh, yeah, I might have just made that person's day a bit better. They certainly did mine. So understanding how we can incorporate those little kindnesses into our day, I think makes a big difference. And also for ourselves, understanding what is required for us to help regulate ourselves and be fully resourced. And when I say resourced, understanding what you are doing with your energy, right? Are you losing it in places might not be helpful, or you need to do something so you can boost yourself? And no, a cup of coffee might not be it.
Well, in the remaining literally very few minutes we have left, let's talk about what we can do to gain energy. And I'll just share one that I do. I talk to myself a lot. I talk out loud a lot. And just yesterday, I was coming through a very long tunnel on my drive back to the studio. And I don't like tunnels. I really don't. And I like to stay on the right-hand side as opposed to the left-hand side. And so when you see, the lights and it's dark and there's a row of cars next to you, and I sort of like white knuckling, I just talk to myself and I say, it's okay. You've been driving for a long time. You know how to drive. Just calm yourself down. And so I'll do some deep breathing. And then I'll say, you will see the light. The light will be at the end of the tunnel. No pun intended. So there are two things that I do. I do a lot of deep breathing and talk to myself.
Those are both very, very good ways to go, especially the deep breathing piece of things helps the nervous system. So in some training that I'm doing at the moment, we actually learn about all the physiology of deep breath. Now, when you think about deep breathing, it's really a belly breath, right? So breathing so that your belly expands, and when you breathe out, your belly contracts. So it's a belly breath instead of just using this small little piece at the top of our lungs. So deep breathing is a go-to for me too. The other thing that I enjoy that helps me to gain energy, well, two things actually. One is spending time in nature. I love spending time in nature. And there's nothing as happy as a plant. I mean, a dog or a cat can get upset with you from time to time. Plants never get upset with you. They might be a little bit sad sometimes when they don't get enough water or too much water, or they have bugs. But in general, plants are very happy things. So I love spending time in nature, and I also enjoy meditation. So those are things that I also incorporate when and where possible into my day to gain energy and fill my cup just a little bit more.
They are some great suggestions as well. And we know that they work because look how calm and cool and collected you are. So something I'd like you to talk about, which we haven't mentioned before on this platform, is that in addition to the coaching that you're doing, you also have a platform that you're on where coaching is offered. Can you talk a little bit more about this, and we'll bring up the website?
So the platform itself is, now I'm going to most probably butcher the name, Elatra, I think it is. And what the platform does is they work with startup businesses. Now, typically when we work within a startup, it's a bit different to working in normal corporations because startups are really fast-paced. We might be wearing numerous hats depending on the size of the organization. There's a whole bunch of different things to take into consideration with a startup that might be a lot different from a normal organization. So I'm working with these guys because not only do they do training materials for leaders within the startup space, they also give them coaching opportunities where with the training that they do, you can also go through coaching where you can integrate what you learn. And I really enjoy the platform itself. It's a lot of fun to work with them. And yeah, if you are in a startup or your organization is looking for a platform to work with, these guys, I think they are based in the UK, but they do international. So I know that I've worked with quite a few organizations in Australia through them. You are more than welcome to reach out. Alternatively, you can also find me on my own website, which is journey2discover.com. And there you can either fill out the little form at the bottom, or you can email me at my email, which is Mariska, MARISKA, at journey2, discover.com, and we can start our conversation. And if you don't like emails and you don't like filling out forms, we also have the option of LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, you can direct message me there, and we can start our conversation that way. You will find me via this little profile that you can see on the screen. So it's nice and easy. And that is, of course, for anybody that is in leadership already, or thinking about stepping into leadership, or going up in your leadership space where you are moving to potentially different level of leadership. I help you bring a little bit more humanness into your leadership space and have those conversations that we don't always like having, but it's really worthwhile if we do them well. So that's me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for being here. And I wish you a very beautiful, warm, balmy summer day as we are getting ready to go into a major ice and snowstorm in the United States. So enjoy your warm weather.
We will definitely do so, and hopefully not get too many more fires, because they're not great.
No, definitely not. Mother Nature is letting us know she's here. So
yes, she is.
All right, my dear, we will see you again next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye for now. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Would you kindly consider going over to our YouTube channels? If you're not watching there, I will put up the YouTube information. But we have 2 channels, and although we stream to many destinations, we always like to see who's watching and where you're joining from. Obviously, we don't know specifically that it's you, but YouTube gives us real measurables. So I would love if you could go over and subscribe to USA Global TV and Radio, and also Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Okay, what I want to leave you with today is I have a new book that's coming out, and it really is for anyone and everyone who is giving away their value. I know I've done that for a long time. We all do it, but Stop Giving Away Your Value, Boundaries, Pricing, and the Business of Respect is my next book that is coming out. I teach business courses, in case you didn't know that. And I also have a course called Stop Giving Away Your Value. What a surprise. It's a 6-week course that is hand in hand with the book. And so the entire thought process behind this is, whether you're in business or you're not in business, what we were talking about today, sometimes we just give so much of ourselves that there's nothing left. And when people know us really well, they know which buttons to push. And then we start doing what it is that we don't really want to do anyway, because we just want to keep the peace. But in business, we can give away our entire value. We just give everything away for free, or we give our time away for free. So I'm going to be helping people realize that we all have value, and how can we protect our value and stop giving it away. So thanks for listening. We're going to be saying au revoir, adios, arrivederci, and we'll see you later. Okay, take care. Our next show is coming up. It is Talking Heads. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.